Hey guys, it's Kevin and this is my review for the highly anticipated Incredibles 2. And what Incredibles 2 is essentially about is we pick up literally right where the first one left off. We see the Incredibles, they're fighting Underminer, and he basically ends up escaping, and because of this, superheroes, basically they have to, move and things like that, and, they're brought in by this guy named Winston, and he basically wants to make superheroes legal again, and the way that he thinks they can start that is to have Elastigirl kind of go on her own mission, while Bob, on the meantime, goes and takes care of the kids, and that's really all I'm going to say. So, Incredibles 2 in general, I was obviously hyped for this movie. I mean, this was easily one of my most anticipated films of the entire summer. It was definitely the most anticipated of the month, and obviously the most anticipated animated movie, maybe of the entire year. I mean, there was just so much hype riding on this film for years. People have wanted an Incredibles 2, and, Incredibles, I think, is one of Disney's most authentic films. I saw it again last night. They did, a double feature of this, and, I saw it again last night, and it's so authentic and just so clever, and it actually does have a lot of adult stuff in there as well. It's definitely one of Pixar's more adult films, and I gotta say, coming off of that film, Incredibles 2 really is, I think, the perfect successor to that film overall. This is everything that I could have wanted in an Incredibles sequel overall. This is a very well done film, but let's just get into it right now, starting off with the cast. And right off the bat, I'm sure that's something that some people are going to be a bit concerned about, especially considering the fact that this is a 14-year wait. Do all the characters sound the same? Did they get back into their roles? And I'm going to say right now, everyone absolutely killed it here. I felt like, honestly, no time had passed. Everyone really just got right back into it. Let's first talk about Holly Hunter, though, as Elastigirl, who is the main character of this movie. Believe the hype, guys. She definitely is the main focus, and what I really loved about her is that they really do take the time to give her a few more layers, because it's not like she didn't have them in the first film. It's just the first film, she was at home a lot, and she was lamenting about a lot of the things that Bob was doing, and remember, she was adamant about, oh, we're retired now. However, when she gets this opportunity, she doesn't really want to pass it up. She wants to relive her glory days. She wants to go back into, the spotlight, and I really did love seeing that transformation, but she still does care about her kids, and she cares about her husband. It's not like she loses that entirely, it's just she has not really gotten an opportunity like this in quite a while, and I really did like seeing this more, like I said, sort of badass side of Elastigirl that we do see in this movie. I think she absolutely killed it here. She has some truly awesome scenes, and there are definitely things that Elastigirl does in this movie that we have not seen Mr. Incredible do, and I was definitely very happy to see what she did here. She was absolutely fantastic. However, that's not saying that Craig T. Nelson as Bob still doesn't have a lot to do, because he absolutely does. He still has a very vital role in this film. Like I said, he is trying to be more of the family man. He's taking care of the kids, and he is basically in uncharted territory. He's not used to being at home as much, and he's not used to, helping Dash with his homework and trying to help Violet out with this boy that she's talking to and try to, balance Jack's powers, and I really did love seeing that. He has some of the funniest, but also some of the most heartwarming moments throughout the film. I really like seeing him bond with the kids more. That's something we really didn't get to see in the first one, and that's something I really did like about the second film, is they give you a lot more time between Bob and the kids, and I definitely thought that was one of the best parts of this movie for sure. Someone else who really had a lot more to do here is Sarah Vowell as Violet. Now, again, not like she didn't have a lot to do in the first film, but I noticed looking back that the kids really weren't as big of a focus. It was much more focused on the parents. Not the case with this one. Really, everyone does get their time to shine, and Violet especially gets a pretty big storyline involving the character Tony that she liked in the first movie. I'm not going to get into what ends up happening to him and everything, but it actually was a pretty clever storyline where they ended up going, and I actually really did like it. There's a really nice father-daughter storyline between Bob and Violet where he realizes that he kind of needs to step back a bit and, not be so overbearing, and I really did like the transformation that she kind of does go through in this film. Violet kind of learns to accept superheroes more, and I really did enjoy that. I thought she did a really great job, and again, it should be noted, Sarah Vowell is not a teenager in real life. She's actually, in her 40s, and again, nothing sounded different. She sounded exactly the same as she did in the first movie. She got right back into that role, and I was very impressed with what we got with her here. She, as well, was really great. And then the rest of the cast here really does do a great job. Huck Milner. I know a lot of people are going to be concerned about him because he is in fact replacing Spencer Fox. To be honest with you, if they hadn't told me that they changed the voice actor, I wouldn't have noticed. It's basically like Nemo in Finding Dory. It's so seamless and sounds so alike to Fox's portrayal that you really don't notice it. And I thought he was just as good as Fox was in the first movie. He still has that rambunctious, childlike, sense of humor that we really do enjoy. Dash is still, he can be very annoying at times, but in an endearing sense, not in a sense where it's like, okay, this kid's really annoying, get him off the screen. Like, you enjoy the more mischievous side of Dash, and that's definitely still here, and I really enjoyed that. Brad Bird as Edna is still great. She's not in the movie as much as she was in the first film, but she still does play a good role here. I really like seeing her bond with Jack, actually, because there's a whole section in the film where she actually has to take care of Jack, and it's one of the standout scenes in the whole film. I really love what they did with her. Bob Odenkirk actually played one of my favorite characters in this movie, like I said, as the character of Winston, who, for me, I thought gave the film a whole new layer, because this is someone who he remembers when superheroes were in their glory days and when they were respected by everyone and when they weren't looked at as these criminals who are just doing good that shouldn't be done. And I really love seeing his character throughout the film. Where he ends up going was not what I was expecting, and I thought he did a really great job. I'm really hoping if they do an Incredibles 3 that they bring this character back, because I really thought he was fantastic here. I really love this character, I have to say. And then Catherine Keener as well. I thought she also was really good here as his sister, who kind of has a bond with Helen in the sense that she's not as respected as she wants to be, and I really did enjoy seeing that sort of like the bond that these two do have. But they don't shove the whole like feminism thing down your throats either with those two, and that's something I did enjoy, and it was cool to see Catherine Keener here for sure. Sophia Bush, a lot of people are going to be excited for her. Not in this movie a lot, really not in this movie a lot, but I did like the role she played. She was definitely a lot of fun. Sam Jackson, of course, is great as Frozone. He was just so fun to watch, and he's definitely, I mean, I've said before, you put Sam Jackson in anything, your movie's automatically better. John Ratzenberger, Michael Bird, really just everyone did a fantastic job. There wasn't a single performance that I didn't think was into it, and especially for a film, like I said, that took 14 years, I think that alone is impressive. So now let's get to the directing and the writing, because again, that's something I don't think a lot of people were too worried about. Brad Bird, he directed the first movie, and he does direct this one, and I think that was the perfect choice, because he knows this, he knows how this series, now franchise is supposed to be. He knows how the family's supposed to be. The comedy is still very much there, but he really did turn the comedy up to a whole other level. This movie is, I think, way funnier than the first one. Not that the first one wasn't funny, but this one took it from, simple satire and just made it that much funnier, and I really loved what he did with the comedy here. I was laughing hysterically throughout this movie. My audience as well was absolutely loving it. And the drama, he does rev up the tension a lot in this movie as well, concerning this whole make superheroes legal again story, and I think it did actually work really well. I really did love the tone here. What I loved about it, though, is that he doesn't forget that this primarily is about a family, and it's supposed to be focused on that family. He doesn't try to deviate from that. He doesn't try to make this more about superheroes being legal. That's still in the conversation, but the family is still the main focus, and that's something I definitely enjoyed about this film overall. I thought his directing was very spot on. The writing to this film as well, I thought was pretty great, because a lot of people have said, oh, it's very similar to the first film. It is and it isn't, because with the first film, most of it focused on Mr. Incredible and how he, in general, didn't have time for his family and how he was trying to, relive his glory days. And, we do get that with Elastigirl, but it's much more balanced in that sense. We didn't see as much of Helen taking care of the kids as we do with Bob in this movie. And that's something I really did enjoy seeing. I really did like getting into, like I said, Bob and the kids. I think that's definitely one of the best parts of the film, because what this film does very well is it takes a lot of characters that didn't really interact in the first movie and gives them them a lot more to do. Like I already said, Violet and Dash, they have a lot more to do in this movie. Violet has a pretty big storyline. Dash has, you know, a lot of stuff, and I really did enjoy it. I thought in terms of, you know, balancing the tones, I did think this film was a little bit more balanced in terms of its story, and I honestly really did love that. And juxtaposed to, like I said, Elastigirl's side of things, where she's, you know, trying to, you know, fight crime and things like that and recount her glory days and make sure that, you know, that superheroes are legal again. I thought it was a really good story, and I really did love where they ended up going with it. And I thought that a lot of this, there were some really great stories here that I really was not expecting, for sure. There are some really nice heartwarming moments between Bob and the kids especially, and I think Bob, out of everyone, probably does go through the biggest shift in this film. Like, he probably does go through his biggest transformation. It's not like he didn't have it in the first movie, but this movie, like I said, he hasn't really been there for the kids. He's always been working, or he's Mr. Incredible, so he really does get closer to the kids, and I thought it was honestly really sweet where they ended up going with that. So yeah, I thought the story, like I said, was very well done. The comedy, though, like I said, is taken to a whole new level here, and that's mainly because of Jack-Jack. It's not that Jack-Jack wasn't a character in the first movie, but now that we know that Jack-Jack has powers, they do so much more with him, because the rest of the movie is basically, you know, when's the rest of the family gonna find out? They do find out in this movie, and the ways in which they deal with it, and the different things that Jack-Jack can do. I will say, if you've seen that short called Jack-Jack Attack, you ain't seen nothing yet. There's a lot more that Jack-Jack can do with his powers. Things that I was honestly astounded about. One particular thing with Edna that had me absolutely dying. I could not believe the kind of stuff that Jack-Jack does have to do. I mean, it's not that Dash and Violet don't have superhero abilities, but Jack-Jack takes it up to a whole new level. He has about 17 different powers, and it's incredible to watch. Some of the best parts of this movie are just getting into Jack-Jack's powers and how they really do handle it, and how they really do control him, and I just really love getting into that. And definitely, if they make an Incredibles 3, that's something I'm very much looking forward to, is seeing Jack-Jack be a much more vital part of this team, because I think that's just awesome, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do there. So yeah, that definitely was something I really enjoyed. Now, in terms of villains in this movie, a lot of people are thinking we're going to see, you know, the Underminer throughout all of it. And I'll just tell you right now, the Underminer is not the main villain in this movie. Who is the main villain is this character called the Screenslaver. And I'm not going to get into it too much because there is actually a really cool twist with this villain. Now, on paper, I do think this villain has an interesting concept where basically, because of the fact that Winston is so adamant about trying to, you know, make superheroes legal again, the Screenslaver is the complete opposite. He wants to do whatever he can to brainwash the public and show all the negative side of superheroes and make it so that can never happen. And he, you know, wants to spread this around, and it was a cool idea, but just compared to Syndrome, it really is a little bit weaker. He just does not have, you know, the character of the Screenslaver just does not have that same emotional connection that Syndrome really did have. Syndrome was a much different type of villain, and look, was I expecting a villain that was going to top Syndrome? No. I do think this was a good villain overall, but I'm not going to lie, this was definitely a weaker villain compared to Syndrome. It felt a little bit more traditional, and where they end up going, it did get a little overcomplicated. I'm not gonna lie. I didn't necessarily take me out of the movie, but it was a little bit overcomplicated, and I do think that they could have done a little bit more with this villain overall. That being said, however, if you watch this movie and this one back to back, I think it makes the experience that much grander, because you get right back into this world right from the first scene where they're fighting the Underminer. You just get right back into it, and they did such a great job with that. I really loved what they did. There are some really great action sequences. We'll talk about the cinematography and things like that, but like I said, just Screenslaver as a villain, I did think he was a little bit weak. My only other thing with this film is some of the new characters we do meet just don't really have a lot to do, particularly Sophia Bush's character, Void. They built her up as if she was going to be this huge character, and she's really not. All she really does in this film is she's a lesser version of Syndrome, in the sense where she's a huge fan of Elastigirl. She wants to fight alongside her, and Elastigirl's okay with it. It's not like Bob where he's like brushing him off. No, Elastigirl's actually okay with Void, and at the end of this movie, it seems like Void is like an established member of the team. So I'm hoping if they do an Incredibles 3, which it's very likely they're going to, that we do flesh out Void's character a little bit more, because I definitely did want more with her. Some of the new members I really did enjoy. Like, there's this one character who he can, you know, he can, like, break stuff apart, and he can, like, close you into a certain location, and there's this one scene between him and Bob, and it just really cracked me up. Like, little gags like that. This film knows what's funny. It knows what made the first one so funny, and like I said, it really does rev up the comedy a lot, and I really did like how it built on that. That was really great. Like I said, cinematography here, action is still great. The animation in this film is just astounding. And like I said, guys, animation-wise, this film is still astounding. There is really no difference here whatsoever. It feels like you just got right back in the first film, and it really does expand the world a little bit more. Like I said, you know, one of the things I love about Incredibles is that, despite the fact they have superpowers, it feels the most tangible, because these are humans, and, you know, they are, you know, interacting, and it's different from other animated movies where they wear the same clothes all the time. Like, they don't really do that here. It felt a lot more like a real world, and that's something I really love about the Incredibles films. There's just something really that feels real and naturalistic about it, and I think they really did a good job with that here. They didn't really take it into, like, comic book territory, and they easily could have done that. You know, in a world where superhero movies are so constant, there's just this constant wave of just new superhero content that's always coming out, they could have easily gone the comic book territory, and they actually don't, and I was very surprised with that, but they really don't do that. Like, sure, there are some things The Incredibles do that are pretty crazy, but in terms of the world overall, it felt very real, and I really did enjoy that overall. And like I said, there are some amazing action sequences in this film. Just the first scene in general with them fighting the Underminer is so great. There is one scene with Elastigirl on this train, and it is about as good as anything we got in the first movie, and it got me just right back into it. I was on the edge of my seat throughout the scene, and you guys will know it when you see it, and it's fantastic. I really loved the action in this movie. If anything, I think they took it to a whole other level, and I really did love it. The score, just the incredible score, I absolutely love. It's one of Pixar's best scores. It's one of those scores that's so recognizable, and it just gets you so pumped. Like, when you hear that score again, for me, it wasn't like, you know, because the fact I'd just seen the first one, it wasn't as, like, you know, I wasn't as in awe as I think it would be if I just saw Incredibles 2 on its own. But if you see it on its own, you hear that score again, it just gets you right back into the world, and they did an incredible job with that. And the editing. This film is a little bit longer than the first one. I believe it's just, it's a little over 2 hours, and I really did not feel the length. I was into it pretty much the whole time. There really wasn't a scene that dragged on for me or anything, and I definitely did enjoy that overall, and the twist that this movie does go in, I was not expecting. It does involve this Greenslaver, who, like I said, is a weak villain. However, the twist they went with this villain is not what I was expecting it to be. I really was not expecting them to go in the direction they did, and that's something I definitely really did enjoy overall. So overall, guys, Incredibles 2 in general is a fantastic sequel. I really loved everything about this movie overall. It gave me everything I could have wanted out of an Incredibles sequel. It retains the humor, it retains the really great family dynamic, and it has really great action in there as well. It has some really great character dynamics overall. It really does up the ante in terms of action and things like that, and it definitely does set up an Incredibles 3. Like I said, I really do want to see it happen. You know, if we can can get 3 Toy Story movies, and hell, if we can get 3 Cars movies, we damn well can get another Incredibles movie. And based on the crowd, I think we're going to. I really hope it's not as long as a wait as this one. However, on the, saying that though, if, take all the time you need, because this was definitely worth the wait. This definitely was what I wanted in Incredibles film. Despite those 2 things, this is a very well done sequel overall. It's for sure one of the best sequels we've gotten from any Pixar movie for sure, and I'm definitely going to give Incredibles 2 overall an A-. But over, guys, to my review of Incredibles 2. Let me know what you guys thought overall. Left your thoughts in it. Please see this movie, guys. Seriously, I know you're gonna see it. Most people in my audience were people who grew up with the Incredibles movie, which it's really crazy to think about that the movie came out as long ago as it did. It really does not feel like 14 years, but it actually was. And that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy. We'll see you guys in my next video, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.